Welcome to Young Kids League the One YouTube channel. If this is your first time on my YouTube channel, please subscribe to my YouTube channel by clicking on the red subscribe button down below and turn on the bell icon. Tell me what you think about this video in the comment section.
We as the Tonse Alliance felt it necessary to address the nation on two key issues that we felt were very important to be discussed. And these issues are, number one, the issue of Honorable Geoffrey Bwalya Mwamba's health, commonly known as GBM. And the second issue is the allegations of fake news that the chief government spokesperson, or rather the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Information and Media, made yesterday. Apologies for that. So these are the two key issues that we felt necessary to address. Now, coming to the first issue of GBM's health and his continued admission to hospital, there are certain things which are beyond debate. So maybe let us agree, first of all, on the things that are not in contention. Number one, it is not in contention that GBM is seriously sick. It is not in contention. Both ourselves as opposition as well as the government are in agreement that Honorable GBM is very, very sick. And the second issue is that the sickness of Honorable GBM is something that has been in the public domain for a very long period of time now. And this has allowed us, as the public and as opposition, to get an insight on what the medical issues are. So, when you look at GBM's ailment, it is in public record that a number of experts, and the majority of those experts, if not all of them, were government medical officers. A number of experts analyzed Honorable GBM's health, and this panel of experts determined that Honorable GBM needed to go out of the country, either in South Africa or India, to be treated for his ailment. That, again, countrymen and women, is not in contention. It is an agreed position. Additionally, it is an agreed position that both the family of GBM as well as the government are of the view that GBM needs to be evacuated as soon as possible. The only thing that has been hindering GBM's evacuation, according to government officials, including the Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security, are the logistics of how to evacuate him. The logistics of how he is going to be accommodated at a foreign hospital, given the fact that he is a convicted person and that there might be need to provide security by the Zambia Correctional Services wherever he might be admitted. That is the technicality, countrymen and women. That is the logistical technicality that has so far to date prevented Honorable GBM from being evacuated to a hospital out of the country. Now, given this background, given the fact that the whole country knows that the ailment or the medical situation of GBM is something that cannot be treated in the country, and that even government itself admitted that he needs to be evacuated. Even the courts of law agreed that GBM needs to be evacuated. The only thing remaining is the logistical hurdle of how to evacuate him, how to provide that medical attention out of the country while being guarded by the officers from Zambia Correctional Services. Given that background, countrymen and women, when the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Information and Media came on a press briefing yesterday and told us that GBM is okay, that GBM was even smiling, he was even laughing, for some of us, we find that not believable, because we know that GBM's medical condition is something that local medical experts have failed to address here. And it is something that for a prolonged period of time, local medical experts have agreed that it can only be resolved if he receives specialist medical treatment out of the country. And it is a fact, countrymen and women, that GBM has so far not received that specialist medical treatment. So how possible is it that the person who was critically ill not so long ago and who needed to be evacuated by agreement of local medical experts suddenly became okay, suddenly became well, to the extent that he was even smiling, according to the permanent secretary in the Information and Media Ministry during his press briefing yesterday? We find that unbelievable from our standpoint as Tonse Alliance. The other issue that makes it the position of government to be doubted is the fact that from the time that Honorable GBM was admitted to Mainasoko Military Hospital, access to him has been restricted. When I go there to try and visit him, I'm not allowed. Even members of his family, among members of his family, there are certain people who are not allowed. The number of people who are allowed to see Honorable GBM is very, very small. And according to our knowledge, it is only 3 people who are family members who are allowed to see GBM. So the question is, if GBM is doing well, and according to the PS in the Ministry of Information and Media, he was even smiling yesterday, why are they restricting visitation? Why are they restricting visitation? Why can't we go and visit GBM so that we see for ourselves that GBM is actually doing very well and that GBM is actually smiling? That's a question that we have for the government. Additionally, the question is, why, if GBM is doing so well, why can't GBM be put on camera so that he greets the nation, he greets the people out there, so that we can see for ourselves that GBM is doing fine? Why are they hiding GBM in a military health facility at Mainasoko and restricting access of him being visited? Because, countrymen and women, the fact that Honorable GBM was convicted of an offense and sentenced to a term of imprisonment of 5 years does not mean that his access to visitation is restricted. As a matter of fact, even if you went to Mukoweko maximum prison today, you'll find that people who are on death row are being visited by their families and friends. They are being visited by their families and friends. And yet these people are on death row. These are people who wear those white mikanjo at Mukoweko. They are on death row. And yet, almost on a daily basis, they receive visitors from their family. They receive visitors from their friends. They bring them food. They bring them all sorts of other things. And yet they are convicted murderers. And countrymen and women, Honorable GBM, according to the best of my recollection, is not a convicted murderer. He is not a convicted murderer. He was convicted of conflict of interest, which is a minor offense. So the question then that we have to government is, if a convicted murderer at Mukoweko maximum prison is allowed visitation by the Zambia Correctional Services, then why are they restricting Honorable GBM to be visited by us, the well-wishers, the family, as well as the friends? Why are they restricting access? And yet, they come to us and tell us that Honorable GBM is actually doing very well and that he was even laughing. The question, countrymen and women, that needs to be answered regarding the issue of the health status of Honorable GBM, given the fact that we don't find the position of government believable. The issue that needs to be determined is whether these government officials that issue pronouncements on the health status of Honorable GBM are credible people. Are these people who are credible? Are these people who are believable? Because it starts from there. If a statement is coming from someone who has a history of telling the truth, then we might be compelled to believe such a statement. But if a statement is coming from someone who has a history of lying on a grand scale, lying to the nation, then of course it is only fair that we doubt what they say. So let us look at the issue of the credibility of these government officials that have been making pronouncements on the health status of Honorable GBM. And that, countrymen and women, will lead us into the second portion of this press briefing, which is the issue of fake news. Because as we talk about the credibility of these government officials, it is intertwined with the issue of fake news. Talking about fake news, countrymen and women, we heard the statements, the threats, and the warnings which the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Information and Media made yesterday afternoon regarding the issue of fake news and the narrative that the opposition are the ones who are in the business of peddling fake news. Countrymen and women, before we address the specific allegations made by the PS yesterday, allow me to delve onto this issue of fake news, the background to this issue of fake news a little bit. When you look at the actions of government in a lot of ways, from a lot of standpoints, you'll see that government is trying to drive a narrative that them as government say the truth, whereas the opposition say lies. They give fake news. And this is a very false narrative, which is meant to undermine the opposition in general and reduce the credibility of the opposition in the eyes of the Zambian people. But the good thing about the times in which we live is that we live in times whereby the people, the masses, do not need to rely on specific news outlets such as ZNBC or Daily Mail and so on and so forth for them to determine what is the truth. They can ascertain what is the truth and make a determination by themselves. When you look at the actions of government so far, let's say we talk about the issue of social media pages, Facebook pages. As in any society, whether you go to the US or you go to the UK, you are going to find that society is divided into various political affiliations. There are those in the UK who believe in the Labour Party and those who believe in the Conservatives. And when you go to the social media, that is reflected in the debates and the analysis that are done on different social media pages. They reflect the political dynamics of the particular country. Similarly, if you go to the US, you find that there are people who believe in the Republican Party, and they are hardcore supporters